back to the channel. So last weekend, I actually went down to my local aquarium store, Aquatico Aquarium. It was probably about 2 to 3 months since the last time I went, so it was great to see the Aquatico team and the amazing fish that they had in stock. I went there with the intention of bringing home some cool species, and in today's video, that's exactly what I want to show to you. I brought home some fantastic native Australian species, and I'll make sure to show them to you in complete detail. But before that, as always, let's thank the traditional custodians of the land I'm filming on, the land that you're watching this video on, and the amazing people that are managing our land at the moment, like our border force, our councils, everyone amazing like that. So a huge thank you to them, and a massive thank you to you for watching this video. But without further ado, let's have a look at my new native Australian fish. So, selecting fish for the 5-foot aquarium is actually becoming a difficult task day by day. The reason for this is because most of the fish in the tank are somewhat predatory in nature. But the biggest worry for me is my barramundi, which is basically like the predator freshwater fish of Australia. My little barra is growing a lot faster than I originally expected, and he's putting on around about 2 centimeters of growth per month. He's also displaying that classic ambush predator fish behavior, and he's actually sizing up a lot of the tank mates as well, which is a little bit concerning. And though my barramundi might look pretty small compared to some of the other fish in the 5-foot tank, he's actually got a huge mouth, probably the biggest out of all the fish in the 5-foot, and he can easily eat a fish that's 3/4 of his size with absolutely no issues. So when I go to select tank mates, I need to make sure that they're at least the same size as him, if not bigger, and this becomes a difficult task because sourcing tank mates at that size is pretty hard. Aquarium stores generally tend to have fingerlings or very rarely full-grown adult specimens, which actually might be a bit too big. However, this is where my local aquarium store, Aquatico, comes in clutch. They are great because they have an absolutely amazing range of native Australian fish at the perfect size that I needed, which was around about that 10 to 12 centimeter mark. I was really considering some South American fish as well when I went to Aquatico, and I had my eye on some beautiful purebred Calberry peacock bass, but my heart went with the Australian native route. So at Aquatico, they had about 4 different native Australian species, but I only went with 2 for some very specific reasons. The first species I went with is the Silver Perch, and this is a fantastic, large growing native falling in the Tetrapontidae family. How was that? First go. And I actually have a close relative of this fish, being the Jade Perch, but I decided against getting more Jade Perch purely because of their aggression. The Silver Perch was the perfect alternative because they're way more peaceful in nature. They have great colour with this sort of chrome silver and this very dark grey speckling in between, and they grow just as fast as Jade Perch, which was a big requirement. And another reason is I actually wanted some dither fish for this aquarium. The reason for that is because of my big silver dollars. They are extremely shy, like a lot shyer than I expected, and they're super skittish, especially when the lights turn on. When that does happen, they panic and they dart around the tank, and they can injure themselves, but they also seem to stress out a lot of the other fish in the tank, which makes the entire tank just hide. So most of the time I'm needing to run the 5-foot with very, very dim lighting at this point, where I can't really enjoy the fish. So the hope is that by adding these Silver Perch, they'll be super active and give the silver dollars the confidence that there is no other threat they need to worry about. And so far it seems to be working to an extent. The second fish I actually got for my 5-foot tank is a catfish species, and for the longest time I've wanted a large growing catfish. If I could, I'd totally get like a South American species being a red-tailed catfish, but given the fact that they are like $900 in Australia, I'm good for the time being. I actually do have smaller catfish species in the 5-foot, being a Raphael, 2 Meistus, and also some plecos, but these catfish hide for most of the day. When I knew that I wanted to add a larger catfish species, I wanted to make sure that it was quite active, and that's where I ended up getting the Tandanus. These grow to around about 80 centimeters, and they're a very unique catfish because they have this classic catfish-like face with these big whiskers, but they also have an eel-like tail, which locally earns them the name the eel-tailed catfish. The other great thing about the Tandanus catfish is that they're a primarily bottom-dwelling catfish and get into the nooks and crannies of my rockwork, which allows for detritus and other organics to be flushed out and picked up by the water column, which can then in turn end up in the filtration. And along with that, their activity level is absolutely amazing. I did mention that they are primarily bottom-dwelling, however, I do constantly see them in the midsection of my water, just casually cruising in open water like a shark, and I just love that sort of unique and different behaviour that they have to them, and they're quite frankly becoming one of my most favourite native Australian species at this point. But throughout this video, I guess you would have realised just how much I love my new native Australian fish. And more so than ever, it's now set off this fire for me to collect other native Australian fish. I'm considering some gudgeons, maybe some other big growing catfish species, some cod if I can get some, and I'm really on the hunt for some archerfish. I think adding a school of 10 to 20 archerfish, maybe not to this tank, but when we upgrade eventually, that would look prime. And I guess it's just showing a few things on my wish list, but I won't reveal too much. Alrighty, Bodgies and Widgies, I really hope you enjoyed that video of my new native Australian fish. I'm loving these silver perch, but even more than that, I love these Tandanus catfish. Their look, their behaviour, everything about them is just fantastic, and they're probably now in my top 3 favourite natives, being the lungfish, my barramundi, and also these Tandanus. But along with that, I actually learnt so much about these fish on the Australian Biotopes YouTube channel. Just the visuals alone provided by Jason are amazing, because he goes ahead into the wild sort of place that these fish are located and captures footage of them in their absolute essence. So you can learn so much about how they swim, their breeding behaviour, everything like that, and I definitely recommend that you do check out his YouTube channel. But as always, a massive thank you to you for watching this video, and stay happy, stay safe, stay Aussie Australian, Bodgie